All right, we are live and we are coming to you somehow either via our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, or our LinkedIn page here at the Parent Tween Connection. If we haven't had the opportunity to meet, I'm Clarissa Constantine. I am the founder of the Parent Tween Connection. We are where parents go when they don't know where to go. One of the things that I love doing the most is bringing amazing professionals in to give you expert insight as parents about how to have stronger, healthier, happier connections with those pesky beings known as teenagers and teenagers. And so I'm excited to be joined today by Teresa Ramirez. She is, I'm going to check my notes. That's why I'm looking off screen at the moment. She's an award winning author, a motivational speaker, and a kindness guru who inspires parents to raise kind kids and reduce school violence, one ripple of kindness at a time. So we're actually going to have a two-part conversation today. And in this two-part conversation, you're going to get some practical heart-centered tools to better guide your family with intention and helping increase the likelihood that your kids feel seen, valued, and calm. So the first part of our conversation is going to be about becoming the CEO of your family. We'll talk about that. And then exclusively for members of Parent Tween Village, which is our private parent-focused community at Parent Tween Connection, we are going to talk about practicing your pause. So Teresa, first, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. Welcome to Parent Tween Connection Talks. Thanks for being with me.
Oh, hi, Clarissa. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, it's interesting that the title of the conversation that you proposed is becoming the CEO of your family. And I think a lot of families or a lot of parents, maybe they work in a professional setting and they're accustomed to organizational structure and organizational psychology and such. And there's a CEO at the top.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily see family in the same way. So, how about we start there and then go into your insights about building an intentional life as a leader?
Yeah, I can start. Clarissa, I started this because of a school shooting.
Mhm.
And I didn't know anybody in it, but I truly felt led that we can do better. And and so I worked with kids, teaching how they treat each other made all the difference.
Mhm.
And then COVID hit, and I landed in front of the computer just like everybody else and reading everybody's social media, seeing what's going on. And I realized that parents were kind of being nasty to each other, not just parents, adults in general.
Sure.
And I actually was kind of horrified by what I read. And then I used my great nieces and nephews as my little guinea pigs. I said, "So do you read your mom and dad's posts?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, all the time. We don't want them posting about us." And I'm like, "Okay." But
Mhm.
they read it, they know what it says. So, what are you posting? And that's the question. Are you posting more of the negative or more of the positive? Because
Mhm.
your kids are going to post the same. And that's when I flip my focus to parents. And parents, you guys are the CEOs. They instill the values and philosophies they want to raise their kids in. And I
Mhm.
think, Clarissa, I think parents don't realize you are your children's number one role model. And I think that parents forget that or don't realize that. They keep thinking peer pressure, peer pressure. And I said, no, it starts at home. It starts at home.
Well, and I think especially as kids age up, like when you've got littles, it's
Yeah.
obvious, right?
Yes.
Or it's
Right.
more obvious
Right.
that the parents in the home, and not just parents, but grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the other
Right.
adults that are in the kids' immediate view, right?
Right.
That we do take that role as the primary role models, but then as they age up and they get into middle school and they're off doing their own thing more, I think it's easy to lose sight of the fact that it seems like they're not paying attention, but they are.
They are.
Oh, they very much still are.
Yes.
So I know a couple of the tools that you talk about seem so simple, like almost insultingly simple, but they are so powerful. And you mentioned two in particular, the power of daily check-ins and
Mhm.
gratitude. Let's start
Yes.
with those. How do you define
But
those? How do those show up?
yeah, and the whole thing about my process is it's simple because parents we're busy. We have a million things, 20 places to run, but this is so easy. And I think again, you just think, "Oh, it's too easy to be to be worth anything, to have impact. And one of the things, I have 3 questions. You want to, especially these tween teenage years, you want to know what's
Mhm.
going on when they're not with you. And
Mhm.
it's so important. So I asked 3 questions. What did you do? What was the best thing that happened to you today?
Mhm.
What was the thing that you weren't crazy about happening today? And what made you laugh today? And that just, those are check-in questions you can do while you're washing dishes, over the dinner table, running in the car, running to all the activities. It can be that kind of easy conversation. And I think with tweens
Mhm.
and teens, when you're not sitting face to face, when you are doing something, they tend to respond a little bit better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I talk about that a lot with folks because I think from a subconscious level, when we are face to face, it inherently brings a combative, competitive
Yes.
mindset because you're like
Mhm.
opponents when you're face to face like that. Whereas if we're side to side, it's more like us versus the world. It's more like we're
Mhm.
on the same team, literally shoulder to shoulder. So I like that you underscore that. How does gratitude play in, and how do we model that for our kids?
Well, say you've asked the questions and that your child is just like, the world is coming to an end, my life is over. And you sit down, I like to do it at the end of the day, but whatever works for you. That's, I want to, whatever you can work it into your schedule. But just sit down and have your child grab a notebook and a pen, pencil, and say, okay, you got up. You got up this morning. You're breathing. You're alive. Hey, the sun shined today. It's snowing here. Here it's it's snowing today. You have a roof over your head, you have heat, and just start getting your child to rethink that the world, the sky is not falling, and just start having them write that list down. You get them started, and most of the time they'll say, "Well, yeah, we had my favorite dinner tonight.
Hmm.
You know, so and so and I had a good conversation. My teacher said I did a great job." And they'll start putting those things down. And it just flips that the sky isn't falling. There's a lot out there to be thankful for and grateful for. And it starts to change how their mind works.
Absolutely. And I think even when we do feel like the sky is falling,
Yeah,
right? And maybe
yeah,
sometimes the sky is falling,
it's falling.
but there is likely still something to be grateful for. And I like
Absolutely.
the idea that you're saying, hey, share that with them from an early
Yeah,
age. So then hugs.
hugs.
I
Hugs are
like
the
hugs.
best. Hugs are the best.
I'm like Olaf from Frozen. I like warm hugs.
Yeah.
But what is it about the hug from your experience and your perspective and background that is so powerful?
Hugs are great. You just said it, just they make you feel good. But there are studies, and I came across this in my research, that you need 4 hugs a day just to survive. 8 hugs a day to maintain the status quo, and 12 hugs or more to thrive and grow. And I know it's harder as the kids get older to sneak in that
Mhm.
hug. Do it anyway. I don't care
How
if you have
long
to
does it
grab
need to
them,
be?
put them in, do them, grab them and put them in that bear hug. It's so important, and it does have an impact on your child.
So how long of a hug are we talking? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds?
Whatever they will let you do.
Okay.
It does. It really. It doesn't matter if they'll give you a quick 10. If they'll allow quick 10 seconds, take it. If they'll allow a 1 minute hug, take it. And sometimes, if something isn't going right, they might. They'll take that hug and they'll just hug onto you because finally there's something to hang on to, and they
Hmm.
haven't had that all day until they got home to you. So yeah,
Hmm.
whatever you can get, do it. And as many
Well, and
times, as many times as you can
one of the
fit it
things
in a day.
that I like to think about a hug is that you can't give without receiving, presuming it's
Right.
like a face to face hug, right? Like if we're
Mhm.
bear hugging them from the back, that's a different conversation. But you can't give if you don't get.
Right. Exactly.
So then
Exactly.
I know another point that you really emphasize is being intentional about telling them how important they are to you.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I think again, we sometimes as parents we just assume they know that we love them. They assume we know that they think they're great. You
Mhm.
need to say it. You know, again, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong. You need to say I love you. You need to say you are important. I
Mhm.
appreciate you. You are the light of my day. They need to know those things. And then, the old adage, catch them doing something good. Hey, they did
Mhm.
loaded the dishwasher without you asking. Thank you for doing that.
Mhm.
It's and I said again, it's so simple. You weave it into your everyday life and build that foundation. And
Well, and I'm even thinking, I've got friends who have littles. I've got friends who have teenagers. I
mhm,
actually don't have kids of my own, as luck would have it, but I work with a lot of teenagers, and so I know whether they're 5 or 15, things like, uh, particularly like character traits, right? Like, wow, I
mhm,
saw you being really kind to your
mhm,
brother today,
yeah,
or thanks for taking a minute to not respond or like to react. Like, I noticed that you took a minute to think about what your reaction was going to be or what your response was going to be before you actually said something. Like,
mhm,
that shows me that you're growing or that you're really being
yeah.
considerate of the other person. Do you have a formula of like recognize and then say why you appreciate it, or is it just I love that you're here? Or
Yeah, you can, one of there isn't a true formula for that, but you want to
okay.
be intentional, and being intentional is putting those sticky notes on their bathroom mirror, on their
Hmm.
door. If you know they've been stressing out about the big math test this week and you know it's today, just slip that little note in their backpack. You've got
Hmm.
this. Just sending them out the door on on a good note makes all the difference. Um, just that good morning, go get them kind of attitude. And I know people think it's kind of fluffy, but I know a guy that worked in a parking garage, and he he would always say good morning and smile to his regular people. And then he went on vacation. And when he came back, they're all yelling at him. Where have you been? I've had the worst week or 2 weeks, whatever it was. And he's like, what are you all talking about? And they said, your smile and your good morning just always set the tone for the day.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
without it, it went down. So, as parents, flipping it around, again, something so simple, but just sending your child out with that good good vibes of you're important,
Hmm.
you are smart, you've got this. Those
So
the
how
words
does
are
this
important.
Absolutely. I actually, even not just the words, but like I shared a post last week that was like, and so much of this isn't just about the kids in our worlds, although that's
Right,
our
right.
focus here, right? But
Exactly.
it's like
Yes.
if you have a partner or
Everywhere.
you have a colleague, being like, hey, just lighting up when somebody walks in the door.
Mhm.
I think of it like, how does my dog respond to me? Because when I walk in, my dogs are so stinking excited to see me. My husband sometimes like whatever, maybe he's paying attention to the hockey game or something on his phone. I know he's glad that I'm home, but my dogs show it differently than
Yes.
humans do, right?
And that's huge.
So
That reaction is huge.
so does that mean that really my dogs are the CEO in my family?
Yes, that is. My kids are grown and I have 2 fur babies, and I like they do run the roost. Let's just be honest.
So then here's my question. This intention, these little things, and I like the fact that you're circling all back to the intention, that we're being intentional about
Mhm.
it. It doesn't take these big monstrous
No.
efforts necessarily. It's a little bit here and there that builds connection.
Yes.
How does this relate over to the proposal that you are the CEO in your family? Whoever's listening to this, you're it. And if you're
Yeah.
partnered up, maybe there's actually two of you who could do
Yes.
this. But how does this lead over into that mentality of being a leader in the family?
It it goes back to being the role model that your kids are watching. They hear everything, see everything, and if you're doing it, they are going to do it. So what are you doing? Are you being that kind, positive parent, or are you gossiping on the soccer field about people? They hear
Mm-hmm.
that. It's those kind of things. So you just, again, watch your words, watch your actions, because they might have their headphones on, but they can still hear you.
Mhm. Absolutely. So tell me about your book.
My book is called Raising Kind Children. And again, it just starts it. You're building that foundation, that smile and hello, the sticky notes. That's all the foundational building of kindness.
Mhm.
So then you go into bringing in the soccer team, the chess club, the drama club, and doing community activities like the food banks, collecting those items for the food banks, collecting socks for the homeless, those kind
Mhm.
of things. And then it goes on to what we'll talk in a little bit about the payoff, how you respond in those awkward, sticky situations.
Mhm. Awesome. Where can people find that? Amazon, I'm assuming, or your
Yes,
website?
yes, this is on Amazon, or there's a link on my website as well, journeyandkindness.com.
Awesome. So one of probably the question that I ask the most of our guests, it's always a last minute. You don't necessarily get forewarning on it, so be prepared.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Everything that we do about at Parent Tween Connection is based on strengthening connections, and
Mhm,
so we have what I call the foundations of connection. And these were, during my career as a test prep coach, I've worked with tens of thousands of college bound high school students as well as grad school bound college students and adults.
mhm.
And I sat down and I said, why is it that often these young adults would rather talk to someone like me, someone who isn't mom or dad, someone that they don't know as well, about some really heavy topics? Like, what am I able to bring to the situation that mom and dad have a harder time presenting? And I just say mom and dad in heteronormative cultural speak,
Yeah.
right? But like whoever it is as the adults in their family. And
Mhm.
so I took the word connection and I've got 10 concepts that the first letter of each spells out connection. So I'm going to
Yeah.
toss them your way. And I'd love to know which one kind of just like pops out at you, either relative to your work or the primary, like overarching concept, whatever it may be to you. Just which one kind of like resonates. Okay. So we start with create a safe place,
Yes.
observe, nod and smile, as in zip it, non judgment. Then we have explore or educate.
Mhm.
Then we have challenge your truths, take your time, innovate, own your own story, and nurture.
Nurture. Oh.
Is there one that you're like, ooh, that one?
Oh, well, I'm just thinking, ooh, that one and that one and that one. I had, I said, yeah, create, because I know when I was a single parent and I was going through the divorce, I went through counseling to learn how to create that safe space so they could tell me anything. And that was kind of what you were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to not react. I had to sit and he was talking and he was mad about this. And boy, to hear him talk, I was the worst mom to ever walk the face of the planet, but I couldn't react.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because you want to create that safe place so your child can tell you everything, even though in your heart and in your mind you're going, I cannot believe they did that. But you're very serene on the outside, going, okay, so how are we going to make this better? How are we going to keep you from making that bad choice again in the future? But yeah, and that's, we'll talk about the pause. That's where all that comes into play. But that's what I think, that first thing you said about creating that safe space, I go back to that time where I had to learn myself how to create
Mm-hmm.
that safe space. And it does. And now my kids are in their 30s and we have a great relationship. And it
Mm-hmm.
did make a bit, I do know, as he went from a young child to tweens and to teenage years, having that safe space so he could come home and say, Mom, you're not going to like this, but, but this is what happened, because he
Mm-hmm.
knew I wouldn't react, but we would talk it out rationally.
I love it because I was going to ask you, why is that reaction a less than optimal response? And you just
Mhm.
said it's like if they know that you're going to react, if they know that you're going to fly off the handle and flip your lid, they're going to be less likely to share.
Exactly.
And frankly,
Exactly.
that was part of my experience as a teenager. So many families say to me, or so many folks that I work with,
Yeah.
how do you start a company, an organization it's based on family dynamics and family connection when you don't have your own kids. And I was like, because I was the teenager, and because I work with teenagers a lot, you know, in my test prep career, I'm more aware than many about of a lot of the challenges that they face. And that's one of the reasons that they feel more comfortable talking to somebody on the outside, is because we are less likely to lose our ever loving minds. So,
yes.
For people who like what we've talked about today and want to learn more, where can they find you, and give us a quick synopsis of the kind of support that you offer to families?
Yeah, this type of support is we do go through the foundations and we go through the community, because that's where people like to start. That's where they're comfortable. And then I go into a lot of we'll talk about the pause, and then there are the changing your perception of someone, using the use of humor in those awkward, sticky situations, and sometimes you just have to walk away situations. And so it kind of graduates.
Okay. And so where can people learn more about you and the support that
yes,
you offer?
They can go to journeyandkindness.com and hit contact me, and I will respond.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up the conversation here, this portion of our conversation. Again, we're going to head over to the Parent Tween Village, where we're going to have a private conversation exclusively for our members, where we're going to be talking about practicing that pause and how to do it and the impact that it can have along the way. If you are not yet a member of Parent Tween Village, come on over and check it out, parenttweenconnection.com. We are a community where we help parents and the professionals who support them transform those challenging teen and tween relationships into trust-filled connections through guided exercises like we're about to learn more of, and expert support from professionals like Teresa. So if that sounds like your jam, come on over. We'd love to have you join us. And with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. And I'm going to say, Teresa, thank you. And I'll see you in Parent Tween Village.
Yeah.